let's transition into that. Stress less with me, Jess. So on your website, I pulled this graphic. When we learn more about ourselves, we are able to communicate, create boundaries, show up for ourselves, and create hobbies, start new healthy habits. So can you just kind of talk to our audience just kind of about those? It's already stressful being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner compared to the rest of the world who aren't, and they think really our lives are easier, but sometimes it's not. So talk to us about those, like almost, I would say, what are two or three things our audience could just take away right now and just make their lives better with kind of how you teach to do things?
Yeah, of course. So especially with entrepreneurs, really making that time for yourself. So I saw something say from another business coach. Basically, she was saying, we leave these 9 to 5s, start our own business to then work 24/7, right? And so that's what we're doing. So going back to drinking the coffee while it's hot, when I make time for myself, I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about, what do I need? What do I want? So maybe that's kind of when we go, oh, I wanted to start a business. I want to lead this passion. I want to start this podcast, right? When I start to make time for myself, I start to learn what's important to me. So maybe I'm not watching all the Netflix series this weekend. Maybe I'm actually reading the book that's going to help me get into that podcast. Maybe I'm, going onto your website and saying, oh, I want to be that free website person this month, right? So what are those things that I'm doing? So when I'm creating that communication, it's that communication with myself. Remember, going back to that 60,000 thoughts a day. I'm communicating with myself. This is what I need. I want, I deserve, I'm allowed to have. I can do. I know I'm able to do that. But then it's also having that communication with others. What do I need so I can succeed in that? Okay, well, Mondays I'm recording podcasts. So I need someone to watch the dogs, babysit the kids. I maybe need somebody I'm not making dinner that night. So I know I need those because I've set that time for myself, but I'm also going to communicate that with somebody else. Maybe it's the significant other that I'm living with. Maybe it's my kids, right? So how am I creating that communication with them? But it's also setting those boundaries. So it's learning to set those boundaries of, this is my time. So my time to regroup, but it's also my time to work on the business. And what does that look like?
You just also brought up time management as well.
Yes.
So how people can manage their time to reduce the stress.
Exactly. And we know this, right? This isn't a new whatever of, oh my God, I didn't know I waste time on social media. Oh, I didn't know I just scroll down through Wonderland or get stuck in a series of TV or whatever the case may be. We know we do this, right? That's not a new thing. But when I start to learn, when I start to set those boundaries, I can still have that. I'm not taking that stuff away, right? I'm like a dietitian would. They're not going to take the whole chocolate and caffeine away. They're going to find ways that you're finding that balance and those boundaries in it. Because when you have that time management, I'm going to go, okay, what's important to me today? Because today's Wednesday when we're recording, right? So Wednesday, my schedule based on today, what's important? How do I communicate that? How am I setting boundaries with that? And then we talked about the hobbies, and the last part was, it's that making time for myself. What's that one thing that makes me happy?
Yeah.
What do you say to the entrepreneur out there that their small business is their life? And when you say, because I've talked to entrepreneurs, and what's your hobby? Oh, it's my business still. And right, and just talking to you, that could be like unhealthy. How do they know? How do you detach them from that, that almost that stuck thought of your business is on 24 hours a day, but what you think is a hobby, you're doing whatever, you need to fully detach. Talk to us about that to that person.
So what happens when we have a hobby? There's a couple of things that happen, right? So especially with a business owner, we become more creative, right? We become more of like, you ever go for that walk or even a shower? Let's just start with showers. How many times have you been in a shower like, oh my God, this is the greatest idea. I'm going to implement this. This is what I need to do. Well, what happens when I don't give myself that time? Or the other piece to it, how many times have we been doing something, a funnel, we'll say TikTok, a podcast, or whatever the case may be, and it doesn't fulfill our business or even ourselves. So when I make time for that hobby, when I make time for myself, I'm able to recognize what's important to me. I'm able to become creative, and I'm able to kind of see the bigger picture of what I actually need in my life. So, and finding that balance, because a lot of times too, when we start a business, we do it for more freedom. We do it for more control in our life. We do it so I can spend more time with my family. But when we start the business, we're so wrapped up in the business and wanting to succeed that we don't do that, right? So what are you working for? You're not working to work, you're working to be you. You're working to be
Right.
with your family, you know?
And I think some business owners get lost in that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're thinking like you don't want to take a day off because you feel like you're losing out to the competition, like there's parts of it that, okay, it's good. You appreciate the hustle, but then
Sure.
the health part of it is, we've had guests on our podcast, just, you got to take time for yourself. It's important to take care of you too, not just your business and everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so important because it starts from the top. If I'm taking care of myself, my business is being taken care of, right? So that's
Mhm.
how it works.
Yeah, I mean, you just made me think of like, I tend to work a lot, like most entrepreneurs do, but like my family will be like, you're always working, you're always on your phone, you're always answering emails. And it's, I guess for me, it's that working on the time management piece of maybe I should put my phone down after this time.
And I think with the time management piece that you're saying too is the way I try to picture it when I'm going to companies or whether I'm working with a business owner is if you have 40 hours, we'll just do the basic 40 hours a week, right?
Mhm.
Or the 8 hours a day. Why are you not getting it done in that 8 hours? So when I make time for myself, I can kind of go, okay, well, maybe I need help in this area. So then I hire an employee. Or again, like for me, I had to take some things out of my business. I'm like, well, this isn't even bringing me revenue. It's not bringing me happiness. So maybe this is for later, right?
Mhm.
So really having those kind of talks with yourself, that kind of comes in that time management piece.
So when